Should authors write with or without bias? It's a topic that's been discussed for centuries, and it remains a complex and controversial issue. Bias is a natural part of human thinking, and we all have biases that are shaped by our experiences, beliefs, and our cultural backgrounds. When it comes to writing, bias can take many forms. It can manifest in the way characters are portrayed, the language used in the text, and the themes explored throughout the work. When we start developing characters for our stories, it's important that we take account of our biases and prevent them from taking over our characters' stories. Let them live out their own narratives in the landscape you choose for them rather than make them mouthpieces to drive home an agenda. Hi, authors. My name is Jennifer Carr, and I'm here to help you write more realistically through psychology. As an author, a marriage and family counselor, and a former high school AP psychology teacher, I have some insider information that can help you write better stories and more relatable characters. First, let's define bias. A bias is a tendency, inclination, or prejudice toward or against something or someone. Some biases are positive and helpful, like choosing to only eat foods that are considered healthy, or staying away from someone who has knowingly caused harm. But biases are often based on stereotypes rather than actual knowledge of an individual or circumstance. Whether positive or negative, such cognitive shortcuts can result in prejudgments that lead to rash decisions or discriminatory practices. This tendency is a hard one for authors because while we are still human, we're expected to put ourselves to the side and focus on our storytelling. The problem with that is we're human, and whether we like to admit it or not, a lot of our writing, especially when it comes to character development, is based on lived experience and human interactions. The problem lies in allowing these experiences and interactions to form stereotypes or generalizations of groups of people in our minds. What I mean by this is, for example, somewhere along the way, people with blonde hair, particularly females with blonde hair, became stereotyped as airheaded and scatterbrained, unable to seriously function within reality. I don't know about you, but I know a lot of blonde females who are anything but airheaded and scatterbrained. But that became a stereotype, and it has taken a lot of time for that generalization to kind of fade away into the background. One of the most significant advantages of writing with bias is that it allows authors to bring their unique perspectives and experiences to their work. When an author writes with a bias, they are sharing their personal understanding of the world. This can lead to more interesting and nuanced stories that reflect the diversity of human thought and experience, as we all bring our own unique perspective to the table through our stories. In addition, writing with bias can create a more emotional connection between the reader and the author's work. When readers encounter bias in a text, there is potential for the reader to connect with the author's purpose. This can also make the reader feel more connected to a character and more invested in the story. Furthermore, biases can also add depth and complexity to characters. For instance, if an author writes a character with a bias against a particular group of people, it can make that character more interesting and multidimensional. This can lead to a more compelling narrative that is both thought-provoking and emotionally engaging. On the flip side, there are cons to writing with biases. One of the most significant disadvantages is that biases can lead to stereotyping and oversimplification of characters and situations. This can reinforce harmful and discriminatory attitudes in society. Biases can also limit the reader's understanding of the world as they prevent authors from presenting a complete and accurate picture of reality. In addition, writing with biases can lead to the marginalization of certain groups of people. For example, if an author writes a book with a biased perspective that portrays women as inferior to men, it could lead to gender discrimination and reinforce sexist attitudes in society. Similarly, if an author writes a book with a biased perspective that portrays people from a particular race or ethnicity in a negative light, it could lead to racism and perpetuate harmful stereotypes. For instance, in his novel Heart of Darkness, author Joseph Conrad presents a biased portrayal of African people. The novel is set in Africa, and Conrad's portrayal of the African characters is often dehumanizing and condescending. The African characters are often portrayed as primitive and uncivilized, reinforcing harmful stereotypes about African people. Moreover, the novel also portrays white colonizers as superior and enlightened, perpetuating the myth of the white man's burden to civilize Africa. Additionally, the novel provides zero counterbalance to this negative bias. Now, it should also be noted that bias can be unintentional. Authors may not be aware of their biases, and they can unknowingly perpetuate harmful stereotypes. This is why it is crucial for authors to evaluate their beliefs, and if they become aware of any bias, they should make an effort to correct any stereotypes they may perpetuate in their work. So, what can you, as an author, do to overcome your biases? The first step is to acknowledge that biases exist and to recognize the ways in which they influence your thinking. By being aware of our biases, we can work to prevent them from negatively influencing our writing. Secondly, if as an author you desire to be inclusive and representative of diverse perspectives in your work, seek out feedback from readers who come from the different backgrounds you hope to include and listen to their feedback. It also means doing research and learning about cultures, experiences, and perspectives that are different from your own before attempting to include these in a story. Focus on your characters as individuals and how they contribute to driving your story. Characters should feel like real people with their own motivations and beliefs and not just function as mouthpieces for your message. If you want to address a particular issue in your work, do it in a way that feels organic to your story and your character development without distracting from the overall story. This means investing in your character and creating personal motivations, values, and beliefs for them. Prioritize storytelling over message. While it's important to have a message or agenda in mind, authors should prioritize storytelling above all else. The story and characters should be the focus, with the message or agenda serving as a supporting element. Some of the goals we have as authors is to entertain, to engage, and to express ourselves creatively. In order to reach a broader audience, it's important that we avoid alienating people and instead attempt to stay true to our craft while respecting the diversity of humanity. Want some free resources that can help you become a better writer? Check out the link in my profile. Have questions about writing more relatable characters? Leave a comment below or send me a message. Want to stay in the know about writing more realistic stories and more relatable characters? Hit that follow button.